today's mindful moment. Have you ever stopped to think about, um, the grain of sand? I mean, it's everywhere, right? Beaches, deserts, even our backyards.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that that same humble grain of sand could end up being the key ingredient in a device worth its weight in gold?
It's like we're not talking about just sand castles, We're talking about silicon chips, the very heart of our digital world, forged from something as basic as sand.
It's like alchemy, right? Transforming something so ordinary into the backbone of smartphones, computers, everything in between.
Exactly. And the journey is really surprising. It starts with a specific kind of sand, incredibly pure silica found in places like beaches and deserts. But it's not just any beach or desert that holds this, this treasure. The purity of the silica is critical. And that sparks this global race to secure these valuable resources.
Okay, so we're not talking about your average sandbox sand here. It's got to be the high purity stuff. But what makes it so special? Why is this pure silica so crucial for technology?
Well, think about a silicon chip. It needs to be incredibly pure to function correctly. Even tiny impurities can disrupt the delicate flow of electrons, making the chip useless. That's where the high purity silica comes in. It's the foundation for creating those ultra pure silicon wafers that are the basis of our chips.
So it's like building a house. You need a strong foundation, and in this case, that foundation is high purity silica. But how to go from sand on a beach to a silicon wafer? That seems like a massive leap.
It is a complex process involving multiple stages and some serious ingenuity. Imagine massive quartz quarries where these enormous machines extract tons of the silica-rich quartz.
Okay, so it's not just scooping sand off the beach. We're talking industrial-scale mining here. What happens next?
From the quarries, the quartz is transported to specialized facilities where it goes through this meticulous purification process. Imagine melting quartz at incredibly high temperatures using coal and wood chips. It's a very energy-intensive process.
Sounds like there's some serious science and engineering involved here. And I bet there are companies that fiercely guard their access to these high-purity quartz sources.
You're absolutely right. There's a company called Sibylco, for instance, that controls a crucial source of high-purity quartz in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. This particular quartz is prized for its unique properties, making it ideal for silicon wafer production.
Spruce Pine, North Carolina. So even in the United States, this hunt for specific types of sand is playing out. But why spruce pine? What's so special about that quartz?
The spruce pine quartz has an exceptionally low concentration of impurities, making it highly valuable for creating those ultra-pure silicon wafers. And Sibylco keeps their mining operations there very hush-hush. It's a reminder that in the world of technology, access to the right materials can be a powerful advantage.
It's like a secret ingredient hidden in plain sight. But once we have this pure silicon, how do we actually make those intricate chips?
Well, that's where companies like TSMC come in. TSMC is a Taiwanese company that dominates the chip manufacturing industry. They take those purified silicon wafers and, through a series of highly sophisticated processes, transform them into those intricate microchips that power our devices.
It's mind-boggling to think about the scale and precision involved. From a grain of sand to a silicon chip. It's a journey that spans continents and involves a complex web of companies, technologies, and resources.
It really highlights how interconnected our world is, and it challenges the assumption that sand is just this infinite resource. As we delve deeper into this journey, you'll see how this seemingly mundane material is at the heart of some pretty intense global trade and even geopolitical power struggles.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. We've traced the path from sand to silicon chip, but where does the journey go from here? What other surprises does sand have in store for us?
Well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit and think about another side of sand's journey, one that's, a little closer to home.
Closer to home, what do you mean by that?
Think about the buildings all around us, the roads we travel on, the very foundations of our cities. They all rely on a material that's surprisingly dependent on sand. Concrete.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Concrete, sand, construction.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about what goes into making concrete. It seems so basic.
It might seem basic, but the science behind it is fascinating. At its core, concrete is a simple mix of cement, water, and aggregates like sand and gravel. The cement acts as a binder, holding everything together.
So cement is the glue, and sand is one of the key ingredients.
Precisely. And just like with silicon chips, not all sand is created equal when it comes to concrete. You need a specific type of sand, one with angular grains, for the concrete to be strong and durable.
Angular grains, what's so special about the shape?
Imagine you're trying to build a wall with perfectly round marbles. They just roll around, right? Same principle applies to concrete. Those angular grains, they like interlock, creating a much stronger bond.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you try to use like smooth, rounded sand from a beach, your concrete wouldn't be as strong.
Exactly. That's why a desert nation like Dubai, despite being surrounded by sand, actually imports sand for construction. Their desert sand is often too fine and rounded for building those towering skyscrapers and, those ambitious projects.
Wow, that's a real aha moment for me. I always assumed desert sand would be perfect for concrete. So where do they import sand from?
Believe it or not, they import it from places like Belgium, the Netherlands, even the UK. Places with sand that's been shaped by different, geological processes, resulting in those crucial angular grains.
It's like a global sand trade, with each region having its specialty. But this demand for specific types of sand, isn't that putting a strain on resources?
You're hitting on a crucial issue. The world's hunger for sand, particularly for construction, has led to some unintended consequences. We're seeing like overmining in some regions, habitat destruction, and even the rise of sand mafias who operate in this shadowy black market for this surprisingly valuable commodity.
Sand mafias. Seriously, that sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It's a real problem. These groups exploit vulnerable communities and ecosystems, driven by the high demand and lucrative profits from sand mining.
It's a stark reminder that even something as abundant as sand can become a source of conflict and environmental damage when we don't, manage it responsibly.
Absolutely. And it circles back to that idea we talked about earlier, challenging the assumption that sand is just this infinite resource. The type of sand we need for specific applications is finite, and we're seeing the consequences of that reality play out in different parts of the world.
Okay, so we've got this high demand for sand, both for silicon chips and concrete. What about the environmental impact of actually making those materials? We talked about the energy-intensive process of purifying silicon, but what about concrete production?
That's another crucial piece of the puzzle. Remember cement, the binder that holds concrete together. Well, producing cement requires heating limestone to incredibly high temperatures, and this process releases a significant amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
So it's not just the extraction of sand, but the manufacturing process itself that contributes to our carbon footprint.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that as we build our world from sleek gadgets to towering cities, we really need to consider the full life cycle impact of the materials we use.
We focus a lot on sand so far, but I know there's so many other materials that shape our world. Where should we head next on this, material adventure?
Well, let's move from the silicon and concrete landscapes to a material that's been shaping civilizations for centuries, iron. It might not seem as glamorous as a silicon chip, but its journey is just as fascinating.
Iron. I know it's crucial for steel, but that's about, the extent of my knowledge. What makes iron so special?
Iron is like the workhorse of materials. It's strong, durable, and incredibly versatile. And its transformation from raw ore to steel is really a testament to human ingenuity and industrial might.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Take me on this iron journey. Where does it all begin?
Imagine a place as far removed from a sandy beach as you can get. The vast, rugged landscape of the Pilbara region in Western Australia. This is where you'll find some of the richest iron ore deposits on the planet.
Australia. So we're talking about those massive mining operations we see in documentaries with those colossal trucks hauling mountains of ore.
You got it. It's a sight to behold, a testament to the scale and power of the global mining industry. From the Pilbara, that iron ore starts a journey that will take it across oceans and through fiery furnaces to become the steel that shapes our world.
Okay, I'm picturing those giant trucks, but what happens next? How do we actually go from raw ore to the steel that's used in everything from bridges to skyscrapers?
It's a process that's been refined over centuries,
Yeah.
a blend of ancient techniques and modern technology. The iron ore is first processed to remove impurities, and then it's smelted in a blast furnace.
Blast furnace, that sounds intense.
It is. Imagine this towering structure, lined with these heat-resistant bricks, where the iron ore is heated with coke, a type of coal, and limestone. Temperatures inside can reach a scorching 1,500 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt the iron and separate it from the impurities.
Wow, it's like something out of a fantasy novel. Molten iron flowing like lava. But I imagine this process must have a significant environmental impact.
You're right. Steel production is a major contributor to carbon emissions. The blast furnace process requires a lot of energy, much of which comes from burning fossil fuels. And then there's the added impact of mining the iron ore in the first place.
So just like with concrete, we're facing a sustainability challenge here. How do we reconcile our need for steel with the need to protect our planet?
That's the question that's driving innovation in the steel industry. One promising development is the use of electric arc furnaces, which can use recycled scrap steel to produce new steel.
So we can like melt down old cars and appliances and turn them back into steel? That's fantastic.
It is. And it reduces the need to mine new iron ore, lessening the environmental impact. And some companies are taking it a step further, exploring ways to power these electric arc furnaces with renewable energy sources like solar and wind.
That's really encouraging. It's like we're starting to close the loop, moving towards a more circular economy for steel.
Exactly. And it highlights that even with essential materials like iron, there are pathways to a more sustainable future. But it does require a shift in thinking, a willingness to invest in new technologies and embrace a more responsible approach to resource management.
Okay, we've explored the journey of iron, from those colossal mines in Australia to the fiery heart of a blast furnace and the promise of a more circular economy. What other material marvels are waiting to be discovered?
Let's shift our focus now to a material that might seem kind of mundane at first glance, but it's like a hidden powerhouse with a surprisingly versatile role in our world. Salt.
Salt? Really? I mean, it's great on popcorn, but I'm not sure I see it as a material marvel.
That's where you might be surprised. Salt is far more than just a seasoning. It's actually a vital industrial ingredient playing a key role in a wide range of applications, from manufacturing chemicals to producing glass to even de-icing those winter roads.
De-icing roads. I never made that connection. So that gritty stuff they spread on the roads during snowstorms is salt.
It is, and that's just one example. Salt is also used to make chlorine, which is essential for purifying water and manufacturing plastics. It's also used to produce sodium hydroxide, which is used in everything from soap making to paper production.
Wow, I never realized salt was so versatile. It's like a secret ingredient in so many aspects of our lives.
Exactly. And its journey from salt mines to our homes and industries is full of fascinating twists and turns. Let's start with one of the most iconic salt-producing regions, Cheshire, England.
Cheshire. Isn't that famous for cheese?
It is, but Cheshire also has this long and rich history of salt production going back centuries. The region has vast underground salt deposits that have been mined for generations.
So beneath those rolling hills of Cheshire, there are these hidden salt mines. It's like something out of a storybook.
It is quite a remarkable sight. These mines are like subterranean cathedrals, with these vast chambers carved out of the salt deposits. And the process of extracting the salt is fascinating in itself.
Okay, I'm picturing these vast underground chambers. But how do they actually get the salt out?
It's all about dissolving and then recovering. They pump water into the salt deposits, dissolving the salt and creating this salty brine. That brine is then pumped back to the surface.
So they create like an underground salt sea and then bring it back up?
Yep.
That's pretty ingenious.
It is. And once the brine is back on the surface, they evaporate the water, leaving behind pure salt crystals. It's a process that's been refined over centuries, a testament to human ingenuity and our understanding of chemistry.
Okay, so we've got the salt, but you mentioned it's also used to make chlorine and other important chemicals. What's that process like?
One of the most important industrial processes involving salt is called the chloralkali process. It's a method for producing chlorine, sodium hydroxide, and hydrogen gas from salt using electrolysis.
Electrolysis, that sounds pretty high-tech.
It is. Essentially, they use electricity to split a solution of salt water into its component elements. It's a relatively energy-intensive process, but it's crucial for producing these vital chemicals.
So it's like splitting the atom of salt water.
In a way, yes. And those chemicals are then used to manufacture a wide range of products that we depend on every day, from plastics to paper to cleaning agents.
It's amazing how something as basic as salt is at the heart of so many industrial processes.
It is. And it's a reminder that even the most seemingly ordinary materials can have extraordinary uses.
We've explored the journeys of sand, iron, copper, and now salt. What other material adventures await us?
Well, let's talk about a material that's essential for our energy future, one that's both a source of power and controversy: oil.
Oil. I know it's a major source of energy, but I'm not sure I see it as a material in the same way as like sand or iron.
That's understandable. We often think of oil primarily as a fuel, but it's also a crucial source of raw materials for a wide range of products, from plastics and fertilizers to pharmaceuticals.
So it's not just about gasoline and diesel.
Not at all. Oil is a complex mixture of hydrocarbons, which can be refined and processed to create this like dizzying array of materials. It's the basis for a vast array of petrochemicals, which are used to create countless products that we rely on every day.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection between oil and materials, but let's start at the beginning. Where does this incredible journey begin?
One of the most significant oil discoveries in history was the Ghawar oil field in Saudi Arabia. It's
Yeah.
the largest conventional oil field in the world, this colossal reservoir of hydrocarbons that's been fueling the global economy for decades.
Galwar. I've heard the name, but I don't know much about it. Tell me more.
It's a truly remarkable geological formation discovered in 1948. It's estimated to have contained billions of barrels of oil, and incredibly, it's still producing today.
Billions of barrels. That's mind-boggling.
It is, and it highlights the scale and importance of the global oil industry. From Ghawar, oil is pumped to the surface, transported through pipelines and tankers, and then refined into various products.
So how does that refining process work? How do they turn crude oil into all those different materials?
It's a complex process that involves heating the oil to different temperatures and separating the various hydrocarbons based on their boiling points. Think of it like a giant distillation tower with different fractions of the oil coming out at different levels.
It's like separating the oil into its building blocks.
Exactly, and those building blocks are then used to create that vast array of petrochemicals, which are the basis for countless products.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection between oil and materials.
Well,
But let's talk about the environmental impact. I mean, oil extraction and refining are notoriously polluting activities.
you're absolutely right. The oil industry has this like significant environmental footprint, from oil spills and habitat destruction to air and water pollution.
And of course, there's the whole issue of climate change. Burning oil releases massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming.
Exactly. And that's why there's this growing urgency to transition away from fossil fuels and towards cleaner, more sustainable energy sources.
But that transition won't be easy. We're so reliant on oil for so many things.
It's true, but we're also seeing incredible innovations in renewable energy and sustainable materials. And the petrochemical industry itself is exploring ways to become more sustainable.
Like what?
Well, some companies are researching ways to create bio-based plastics from plant materials, reducing our reliance on oil. Others are exploring ways to capture and store carbon dioxide from oil refining, mitigating its climate impact.
That's encouraging. It sounds like there's hope for a more sustainable future for the oil industry.
There is,
Mm-hmm.
but it will require this concerted effort from governments, businesses, and individuals to make that transition happen.
I couldn't agree more. We need to be mindful of the environmental and social costs of oil production, while also embracing the incredible innovations that can lead us towards a cleaner, more sustainable future.
Exactly. And that brings us to our final material adventure for today, lithium.
Lithium. I know it's used in batteries, but I don't know much about it beyond that. Why is it so important?
Lithium is a key ingredient in lithium-ion batteries, which are used in everything from smartphones and laptops to electric vehicles and grid-scale energy storage.
So it's essential for our transition to like a cleaner energy future.
Absolutely. Lithium-ion batteries are playing a crucial role in decarbonizing our energy systems and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
Okay, I'm ready to follow lithium on its journey. Where does it all begin?
One of the largest sources of lithium is the Lithium Triangle in South America, a region encompassing parts of Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. This region has vast salt flats, or salars, which contain these high concentrations of lithium dissolved in brine.
Salt flats. So they extract lithium from salt water?
Essentially, they pump the brine to the surface and then use these evaporation ponds to concentrate the lithium.
It sounds like a pretty intensive process, especially in a desert environment.
It is, and it's not without its environmental and social impacts. Water usage is a major concern, as is the potential impact on local ecosystems and communities.
Another reminder that even as we embrace cleaner technologies, we need to be mindful of the environmental and social costs of the materials they require.
Exactly. And that's why there's growing research into alternative sources of lithium and more sustainable extraction methods.
So it's not just about finding the lithium, it's about extracting it responsibly.
Exactly. And that's where things get even more interesting. Let's travel to a place that's at the forefront of lithium battery production, the Gigafactory, Nevada.
The Gigafactory. I've heard about that. Isn't that a Tesla factory?
It is, but it's also a remarkable example of how the material world is interconnected. The Gigafactory produces batteries for Tesla electric vehicles, but it's also a hub for innovation in battery technology and manufacturing.
So what's so special about the Gigafactory?
Well, for starters, it's one of the largest buildings in the world by footprint, and it's designed to be a highly automated and efficient factory, capable of producing massive quantities of batteries.
I can imagine those batteries must be pretty complex. What actually goes into making one?
It's quite a process. They start with raw materials like lithium, cobalt, nickel, and graphite. These materials are processed and then assembled into battery cells.
Battery Ls, are those like the individual units that make up a battery pack?
Exactly. And then those cells are assembled into modules, and those modules are assembled into battery packs. It's a remarkable feat of engineering, with each step involving incredible precision and quality control.
It's mind-blowing how they can pack so much energy in such a small space.
It is, and the Gigafactory is a testament to human ingenuity and our ability to create incredible things from the raw materials of the Earth.
We've covered a lot of ground today. From a simple grain of sand to the complexities of lithium-ion batteries, we've explored the journeys of materials that shape our world. I'm honestly exhausted, but also exhilarated. What a deep dive.
It has been an incredible journey. And remember, these are just a few examples. The world of materials is vast and interconnected, full of surprising stories and challenges.
It really makes you appreciate all the effort and ingenuity that goes into creating the things we often take for granted.
It does. And as we become more aware of these complex journeys, we can start to make more informed choices about the products we buy and the impact they have on the world.
Speaking of choices, we've talked about the environmental and social challenges of extracting materials like lithium. Are there any alternatives? I mean, what if we run out of these crucial resources?
That's a great question. And it's one that researchers and innovators are actively exploring. One promising avenue is recycling.
Recycling. So we could potentially recover lithium and other valuable materials from old batteries.
Exactly. And there are companies already doing this. They collect old batteries, break them down, and then extract the valuable metals, which can then be used to create new batteries.
So it's like a circular economy for battery materials.
Precisely. And that's a crucial step towards a more sustainable future. By recovering these materials, we reduce the need to mine new resources, lessening the environmental and social impacts.
It's like we've been on this whirlwind tour for the material world. It's made me realize how little I actually thought about where things come from, and the impact they have.
Yeah, it's easy to take these materials for granted, right? Especially when we just see them as finished products.
Exactly. But knowing the backstories, the journeys, the challenges, it really changes how you see things. It also kind of raises some questions, though. We talked about alternatives to lithium, but what about those other materials like sand, iron, copper? What happens if we just start running low on those?
That's a question that keeps a lot of experts up at night. There's this growing realization that we can't just keep consuming resources at this rate. And while some materials might have potential substitutes, others are irreplaceable.
So what's the solution then? Do we just keep mining and drilling until there's nothing left?
That's definitely not a sustainable path. We need to kind of rethink our whole relationship with materials, move away from that linear take, make, dispose model, and towards a more circular economy.
Okay, we've touched on this idea of a circular economy before, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Imagine a system where materials are constantly cycled and reused, minimizing waste and reducing the need to extract new resources.
So like those companies we talked about that are recycling old batteries to recover the lithium.
Exactly. That's a great example. And it's not just about recycling. We need to design products for longevity and repairability, make them easier to disassemble and recycle at the end of their life.
So it's about shifting our mindset, both as consumers and as producers.
Absolutely. We need to ask ourselves, do I really need to buy a new phone every year, or can I make this one last longer? And companies need to design products with their entire life cycle in mind, not just their initial use.
It's like we need a cultural shift, a move away from disposable consumerism towards a more mindful approach to the things we use and consume.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about recognizing that materials are these precious resources, not something to be taken for granted or just discarded thoughtlessly.
And it's about understanding the interconnectedness of it all, right?
Mm.
How the choices we make, from the products we buy to the policies we support, can ripple through the entire material world.
Precisely. Our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for ecosystems, communities, and future generations.
This deep dive has been such an eye-opener. I feel like I've gained this whole new perspective on the materials that shape our world, and the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, this is really just the beginning. There's a whole universe of materials out there, each with its own fascinating story to tell.
Well, if this journey is any indication, I'm definitely ready to explore more. Thanks for taking us on this incredible deep dive.
It's been my pleasure. And for anyone listening who wants to keep exploring these ideas, I highly recommend Ed Conway's book, Material World. It's such a captivating journey through the hidden stories of the materials that shape our lives.
We'll have a link to the book in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe for more fascinating explorations of the world around us.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep discovering the wonders of the material world.